pas grippe bête sauvage au bail pour colon blanc. Les nous fournissent j'ai gardé tout partout sous filet. Au lieu nous joindre famille nous yo. C'est un assassin yo, sanguinaire yo nous joindre. C'est adore sans famille nous yo a dégoûté à le yo.
Bien loin dans mon nom. Où tes voyons qu'à chanter. Liberté, on est liberté. Maman, dis bien loin dans mon nom. Où tes voyons qu'à chanter. Liberté, oh yeah, liberté. Aïe, bobo, où tes voix qu'on met la capalée. Aïe, bobo.
Women should remain silent in the churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their own husbands at home. For it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in the church.
Samuel said to Saul, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people Israel. So listen now to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will punish the Amalekites.
Jésus, par ton sang précieux, enlève mon iniquité. Regarde-moi sur les cieux, dis-moi que tu m'as pardonné. J'ai longtemps erré cœur rebelle, mais j'entends ta voix qui m'appelle. Au pied de ta croix maintenant, tout confus, brisé, je me rends. Blanc, blanc, plus blanc que neige, blanc, blanc, plus blanc que neige, lavé dans le sang de l'agneau, je serai plus blanc que la neige.
Now go, attack the Amalekites, and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. 1 Samuel 15.
Greetings, greetings, one and all. It is a pleasure, a privilege to answer the call again this week on the 29th of October 2025 to present to you your weekly program, God is Not White. My name is Jafric Haiti, and I greet you from Ottawa, Gatineau, the capital of Canada. Tonight, we have lots of information to share with you. But before we go any further, I want to present sincere condolences and words of encouragement and strength to people in the Caribbean who have suffered the wrath of Melissa, whether it is on my native island of Haiti in Jamaica, in Cuba, where Melissa currently is active, or further into the Caribbean. We are tough people, and we will rise back. And so I will actually begin this evening with some images um, that were recorded by the Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, um, I believe today or yesterday, showing some images of the extent of the damage that was caused by this hurricane passing through the Caribbean. Let us take a minute to take a look. This is the town of Black River. But you can see there's been damage uh, of Caribbean island nation, and Prime Minister has gone to different communities to speak with the folks to assess the situation, and we wish them much strength as they work to recover from this natural disaster. This evening, we will be speaking about efforts to recover from Melissa in the Caribbean, but we will take a look at other threats that we must face, not only in the Caribbean, because as many sons and daughters of the Caribbean are living in the United States, in Canada, all over the place in the UK, in France, and other parts of the world, we are all concerned by what is happening in our region of the world. And so, um, as usual, we're going to have a set of slides. And with those slides, I propose that we guide a reflection, a conversation on what are the best strategies to get out of this in good shape. And here I'm not referring only to the natural disasters, as you can see from the title of the presentation: Deliver Our Caribbean from Melissa, Trump, and Associated Evils. Of course, it's a figure of speech, as we do not sincerely consider Melissa to be an evil, as this is just a fact of life and nature as we understand it to be, as far as we understand. But the actions that are described in that other picture here, montage, of Donald Trump threatening various populations in the Caribbean, that is absolute evil. And we will also address this element in terms of the threats that are facing people of the Caribbean in this episode of God is Not White. And of course, for those of you who are familiar with the program, we take a look at how people of African descent are negotiating our relationship with Judeo-Christianity, how it has affected our lives historically and in the present time. We, in previous episodes, talked about our current working definition of God, religion, and the disconnect between the two, and the various strategies that our people have tried to accommodate the thing. And more recently, we have also focused on the impact that white Christian nationalism surrounding the current regime in the United States has, in fact, developed into a formidable threat to not only people of the Caribbean, but humanity as a whole. And so tonight, this specific focus on the Caribbean is not unlike what we did last week when we had a specific focus on Native people of the Americas. And so perhaps this is a type of a theme that we're going to follow so that, we can address not, the relationship that we've had with Judeo-Christianity and as it works as an element of white supremacist imperialism in the past, but as it happens in modern times and continues to have impact in our lives. And so solidarity, people joining hands together. This is what's happening with regards to Jamaica. There's a specific website set up by the government of Jamaica where you can go and find information in terms of what their primary needs are, the reports on incidents, and how you can actually donate directly from the government website, supportjamaica.gov.jm. And so I encourage you to do that. But I also wanted to share with you another piece because I really find quite impressive the behavior or the statements or the demeanor of one former Jamaican member of parliament that I happen to follow on Facebook. And I find it quite refreshing what she had to say and the way she said it. You might be familiar with Lisa Hannah, but like I said on my post, I don't know much about her politics, but in terms of how I have seen her interact and represent her people, there is plenty, I think, for the Jamaican people to be proud of in terms of how this lady articulates her case whenever I see her talk about Jamaica. And so let me just share a little bit of that with you just now from my Facebook page. This is something that I saw posted just a few minutes ago, just before we went on the air. Let us share that together and see what you make of it. Okay, so this is from Facebook. Let's put on.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the program. Yes, my flights were canceled on Sunday morning, and a number of us as Jamaicans are stuck in the United States. What we're hearing on the ground, for those of us who can get in touch with family members, is the devastation is almost apocalyptic. So the south of the island and the western sides of the island, if you're familiar with Jamaica, places like St. Anne, Trelawney, St. James, Montego Bay, Hanover, and certainly in St. Elizabeth, those are areas that tourists would frequent. Those were the areas where the eye passed over and were hit hardest. Certainly the eastern side of the island, places like Kingston, where about 1 million Jamaicans live, and places like St. Mary and St. Thomas and parts of St. Catherine were not as badly damaged. But certainly we've seen hurricanes before as Jamaicans and tropical storms. We've never seen anything like this. Certainly roofs are completely gone. Roadways are completely gone. People are now getting out there. But the community spirit in Jamaica is very, very high. We're resilient. We're courageous people. The government has now given the all clear for utility systems to get back up and running for supermarkets and different places of essential items to start opening up again. And our response teams are on the ground, our police are on the ground, our armies on the ground. So the relief efforts have started. And in Jamaica, we have pretty advanced legislation. So what you will see now is almost a parallel activity. You'll see people being rescued in places where there are landslides, especially in rural areas. You will see food items being taken to people being given medication, etc. And in tandem with that, you'll see utility companies starting to assess where they can turn electricity back on, and you'll see roads being cleared. And so that is the immediate situation that's happening. The Minister of Transport, who I'm in touch with, should inform the country later today whether the airports for essential items will be open later today, and whether or not you will certainly have the airport in Kingston being opened.
You sound confident, you sound determined, but I wonder emotionally, this is your home. What goes through your mind when you see some of the pictures? And again, these are not the worst hit areas. We were actually talking on the air the last hour to somebody who had been on the phone with a friend in St. Elizabeth, and they got cut off just as he was telling them that the water was coming through their roof.
Listen,
what are you even feeling right now?
We haven't slept. I can tell you, those of us who are here have been on the phone all night together. My former constituency, which I've been was the member of parliament for 18 years, I was helping 2 nights before the hurricane to still get zinc and plyboard and food to people. And I'm still in touch with them. The roofs are completely gone in some of those areas. There are communities that are decimated, and this is in St. Anne. There is a level of emotional fatigue that we feel, but as Jamaicans, we're resilient, and we rise to meet adversity. That's probably why you hear the determination in my voice.
This is what we would like to spend some time talking to you about, because indeed, the solidarity that we celebrate among people of goodwill around the world is absolutely essential in those times, as in fact they are needed at all times, but particularly when disaster strikes. And indeed, I see that some of our followers are already commenting. Maroon Rebel mentioned, indeed, as a biologist, that climate change has to do with some of these disasters happening. Indeed, at this moment, we are dealing with just recovering from the damage, but it is clear that not only do these events occur regularly, but because of human activity, we are to expect them on a regular basis, and therefore specific intervention is required. And people who are more expert than me on the topic have discussed this at various fora around the world. Unfortunately, the world has really not awakened to really what is required in terms of the level of maturity that the displays of solidarity, etc., that will be required in order to face the impact of climate change around the world, particularly for people who live on islands. Okay, so Jamaica and of course the people of Haiti stand in solidarity, and there's been life lost also in Haiti because there's heavy rainfall. It's still happening from communication with family members who are back there. Let us now talk about Cuba, where the hurricane is currently hitting. There are a few places that I would like to recommend that you take a look. The website of Canadian Network on Cuba.ca. They are collecting funds to help Cubans deal with the devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa. Faced with the U.S. blockade, Cuba is in urgent need of material assistance and solidarity. So you can see the information here, how you can donate via e-transfer. You can also write checks payable to the Canadian Network on Cuba, and you see the address there if you are in Canada. You know, it is much more difficult for folks who are in the United States because of the barbaric blockade that successive criminal governments of the United States have imposed on the people of Cuba. But you also know, or should know, that there are people, courageous people, such as uh, uh, now with the ancestor, former Reverend Lucius Walker, who who founded IFCO in 1967, as old as I am, okay? So the Interreligious Foundation for Community Organization, IFCO, they are the ones, or also known as Pastors for Peace, who've been organizing these caravans of solidarity, going to Cuba and bringing goods and sharing with the valiant people of Cuba for the past 60 years. They have various movements that they've organized. This organization, I would encourage you to check out their website. I haven't seen what they're doing specifically with regards to Melissa, but they have ongoing movements to collect goods and resources. And this is a well-established organization that I've spoken, interviewed members of that organization in the past. I think for people in the US, it's one way to do it. With regards to Haiti, and we will discuss the structural issues that causes these various countries where we are suggesting different things, right? For Jamaica, encouraging people to go directly to the website of the government of Jamaica. For Cuba, you have to go to the strategies of organizations that I've mentioned here because of all the war that is being waged on Cuba. Lesser known is the war that is being waged against Haiti, which causes us to be in a situation where we cannot recommend a government of Haiti because the last real Haitian government was overthrown by a US invasion with collaboration of their white supremacist cousins in Canada and France in 2004. And therefore, I really would encourage people to consider organizations that are established in Haiti, led by Haitians, okay, in order to help the communities. The communities in the south of Haiti have been hit. And in some cities, there's been flooding and deaths, and um, I really don't enjoy, looking at numbers of people killed, etc., because really, after a while, people get desensitized. But just as we said about Jamaica and Cuba or Haiti, people are about surviving, are about fighting back. Okay. And so this organization that I'm recommending, Combat for Potapima, is based in South Haiti. And I can absolutely vouch for it, having witnessed their work ethics, dedication, achievements over decades. You can see my picture here with my kids back in 2012 when we went with my brother, and the leader of Combat pour Tapima standing right beside me there, and my daughter standing in between the two of us, Franz Jean. This brother has done amazing work. Although based in Miami, he keeps in touch with his brothers and sisters in Port-à-Piment, and they've invested in education, in agriculture. And this is what they've just posted this afternoon on their website. And I quote, While damage to homes and infrastructure has not been reported, agricultural losses are significant. The strong winds and flooding destroyed many gardens and farmlands, leading to the loss of crops and soil erosion. These agricultural impacts are expected to temporarily affect local food supply and income, particularly for smallholder farmers who rely on subsistence farming. You can donate on their website directly using PayPal or credit cards. So portapiment.com. For those of you who speak French, you see the French spelling there, or portapiment in Haitian Creole. KPP is definitely a good source. Okay. Unfortunately, we do not only have to contend with this type of disaster. When we talk about Cuba, it is evident that we are dealing with a man made disaster or a forced crisis because really the people of Cuba have done everything in their power to deal with the challenges of life. But, with this barbaric um, embargo, it is quite difficult for them to make it. And so, before we share the statement from the Ottawa Cuba connections, I will share with you a few slides that speak to this blockade on Cuba. Uh, a blockade that has been there for over 60 years. And it is not a lack of effort on the part of people around the world denouncing this crime against humanity. If you were following the news, it is nearly the entire world that has just voted this afternoon, once more, calling for the barbaric blockade on Cuba to be lifted by the United States. Well, instead of seeing progress, yes, of course, it's only 7 countries that voted against it, and another 12 cowards abstained. But you can see from Code Pink's um graphic here that almost the whole world is on the right side, but they're saying our voice doesn't count. But what is the impact of that blockade? The US blockade has drained $288 million from Cuba's healthcare sector. Of course, you guys are all familiar with the fact that Cuba has done miracles, sending doctors, nurses all around the world. And of course, they have developed a formidable health infrastructure in their own country. But that is despite the $288 million that was drained from that sector in the past year. The blockade harms domestic medicine production, blocks Cuba from accessing US made medicine as well as any medicine or technology which has more than 10% of its components made in the United States. Now, if this is not barbaric, I don't know what is. If this is not terrorism, I don't know what is. But of course, they claim that they're doing that in the name of human rights. Last year alone, the US blockade cost Cuba $7.6 billion. Yeah, milliards, des milliards. Près de 8 milliards de dollars. Okay? And the cost increases every year. For reference, the Cuban government's annual budget was 20 billion last year. Okay? So that's what we're dealing with. There is actual documentation that, since the Cuban Revolution, the stated goal of the US foreign policy in Cuba has been to bring about hunger, desperation, and to overthrow the government. The blockade has never been about human rights or freedom in Cuba. It is about cruelty and regime change. It's time to lift it. Just like, Columbus did not show up to bring, eternal life to the native people. They came to steal, to rob, because they are thieves. The white Jesus that they are pimping is something they invented. They don't themselves believe in the crap. And so it is time that the majority of the world wins. But it gets worse, brothers and sisters, because um, they're not targeting only Cuba. And now I will read the statement from the Ottawa Cuba Connection. For more than 33 years, the members and friends of Ottawa Cuba Connection have been advocating for the United States to end the criminal blockade against Cuba. As we approach the vote this Wednesday, well, that was before the vote, which actually happened, and I just told you about it, on the resolution against the blockade. We are deeply concerned about recent actions taken by the US administration led by President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. They have submitted letters dated October 8th and 17th to various governments around the world, coercing them to change their upcoming votes at the United Nations. This manipulation undermines the democratic process and the sovereign rights of nations to express their positions on this critical issue. In addition to these coercive efforts, the US has unjustly placed Cuba on its list of state sponsors of terrorism. This baseless designation further complicates Cuba's situation and hinders its ability to engage with the international community. It fosters a narrative that inaccurately portrays Cuba as a threat to regional stability and peace, rooted in disinformation campaigns related to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, in which Cuba has absolutely no role. We urge all countries to stand firm in their support for Cuba and resist any external pressure to alter their votes. The call for justice and an end to the blockade must be upheld, free from the influence of misinformation and coercive tactics. Well, it did not work for them this time around. Although you can say, well, yeah, they got five more votes. The last time they only had two votes, Israel and the United States, against the lifting of the blockade. This time they got seven. So they spent, some money lobbying for, Moldavia or some countries like that. But in any case, the fact is, even if the whole world except the United States vote against that, um, that's not what is going to make them change. And we know that because they have expressed in many different ways and times that when they put Cuba on the list of sponsors of terrorism, they know very well that this is disingenuous because it is the real sponsors of terrorism who are calling the folks who are sending doctors and nurses around the world terrorists. Yeah, very, very, very cowardly and disingenuous. And so, as we are talking about taking a stand, it is also time for us to stop pretending to be in solidarity. You know, those calls, such as you can see in this poster that I modified, I took the liberty to do so. Pray for Cuba. We don't need prayers. We need human beings to get their backbone working and to stand truthfully in solidarity with the people of Cuba, the people of Haiti, Jamaica, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, etc., etc. Prayers do nothing. All right? Just like we were saying last week, the Pope sitting on a chair covered in gold, constantly praying imaginary white Mary for the people of Burkina Faso, of Haiti. Come on, stop this nonsense. You look ridiculous, and everybody know that you are bluffing and you are ridiculous in 2025, peddling white Jesus to the people that you've enslaved, robbed of all of their resources, and you continue to destroy their livelihood, and you're pretending to be praying to a non-existent entity. This is barbaric. Dr. Patrick Ely, who's now joined the Ancestors, answered the question, what can we do to help? Be a good citizen of your own country. That's what he's always said. So, how can you take meaningful action? There are many things that you can do. You could pressure your elected representatives to adopt non-racist foreign policies. You could denounce imperialist aggressions on impoverished populations of our planet. You could make your money talk. For instance, decide that you are not going to spend any tourist dollars on resorts where they are practicing anti-black racism, for instance, or anti-indigenous American racism in places such as the Dominican Republic, where anti-Haitian racism is rampant, in places like the Bahamas, where they practice the same. Indeed, yeah, you'd say, well, I thought the Bahamians are black people just like the Haitians. Well, that is only if they knew. Well, on resorts where they practice anti-black racism, such as in Haiti, yeah, it's not a typo. In Haiti, just like in Jamaica, you have these resorts, okay, where the native people cannot go. Well, you have places like Labadie in Haiti, where there's a private company that owns the place. And of course, they don't make it as they did in South Africa to say no blacks allowed, or in the US South of the 60s or earlier. No, this time it's via economics, and also sometimes via some ridiculous regulation. Like you show up at the gate to go to Labadie and they ask you for your passport. If you're a Haitian and you've never traveled, what do you need a passport for to go on your own territory? That's absolutely illegal, but they do it. And so when you go to this enclave in Haiti, you see a whole bunch of white people enjoying themselves on the beach, and the black Haitians are serving them coconuts and conch and fish and all kinds of stuff. And to them, this is development. That's their wet dream. Okay, in essentially to do exactly what their ancestors, their barbaric slave making ancestors, did for hundreds of years. Hell no. Whether it is in Jamaica, in Haiti, in the Bahamas, we need to reject and to fight and boycott resorts of the sort. Doesn't matter what it is on the Dominican Republic side or on the Haitian side. If it is practicing anti-black racism, if it is rooted on anti-indigenous thinking, it needs to be fought and boycotted. I encourage you to check out Brother Eve Engler, who's running for the leadership of the NDP, who rightfully takes the position to call for the imperialist hands off Venezuela. Because indeed, Venezuela is under attack. And I will now share with you an excerpt of a very disturbing video or statement by a US senator a couple of days ago. This is very, very fresh.
Maduro, I'd head to Russia or China right now.
Because
His days are numbered. Something's going to happen. Whether it's internal or external, I think something's going to happen.
the firepower that's off the coast, right? This is an armada. This is a lot of U.S. forces. Are we about to invade Venezuela?
I don't think so. I mean, if we do, I'd be surprised.
Earlier this month, President Trump announced he approved covert CIA operations inside Venezuela.
What do you think removing Maduro would signal to other socialist regimes in the area?
It'll be the end of Cuba.
Cuba relies on subsidized Venezuelan oil to prop up its economy.
America is going to take care of the Southern Hemisphere, and we're going to make sure that there's freedom and democracy.
So this white supremacist skinhead you just heard here, yeah, I know he's a senator. Yeah, just like in the past, they were sheriffs, okay? And they were the ones who were lynching black people. So he's a senator, yeah, and he's a white supremacist bigot. What is the crime of Cuba? I've been to Cuba. I've seen what they've done. You see impoverished white farmers and black farmers working the land side by side in Cuba. And when they finish working, their children are playing in the streets shoulder to shoulder. They're playing soccer, they're dancing raga, they're sharing their culture. And yes, their houses are in bad shape. Why? Because of the embargo, because of the blockade. The government has done all it could to invest in higher education, in healthcare, and all of these things. But they are constantly being attacked by the white supremacist criminals in the United States and their allies in Canada and others, because the others are more hypocrite than the ones in Washington, D.C. But they have all the same objective: to go and steal the resources of Cuba, the resources of Venezuela, the resources of Haiti. It doesn't dawn on them that they have plenty of resources themselves, and that the problem is not a lack of resources, but rather too much greed. The same problem we've had since 1492. And so we encourage you to educate yourselves about what's happening in those countries. In the case of Haiti, there are folks who think that Canada at least has a better reputation in Haiti. No. Canada has been the evil brother that collaborates with the United States in all of their crimes in Haiti. And that's why I describe their foreign policy as white supremacist. They play as Frankenstein, and they have this obsession with fixing Haiti that I keep denouncing in my writings. And the people who are always paying the consequences of Frankenstein playing games with the governance of Haiti are the blackest, most impoverished, that is 90% of the Haitians. And so we call on you to help us mobilize to stop all of these experiments, help the Haitians breathe, chase away the monsters, the puppets that they've put in power, and don't let Slick Frankie get away with murder again. Imagine a Caribbean free of US imperialist interference, where the people of Haiti could elect their best and brightest to lead a government without fearing US invasion to derail hard-earned socio-economic progress, as we have done in the past. And every time we do, every time we plant a seed, they say kill it before it grows, like our brother Robert Nesta Marley sang. They destroy our infrastructures. They spread deadly cholera, as they did in 2010. And here you see Bob Ray, this white man who think he's Tarzan going to Haiti and, taking pictures with soldiers who were mobilized to basically occupy the country. And of course, just like their slaving ancestors when they were going to enslave the people of Australia, of Africa, of the Americas, they always lied. They said they were going to go there to civilize, to bring white Jesus to the people who don't know white Jesus. White Jesus is a good thing. It's supposed to save their souls. That's what they said. But the fools knew they were going there to steal gold, to rape women. That's what they were going there to do. And that's what they did. And that's what they've been doing. And so, no, Bob Ray, we don't buy your crap. We don't need you to play Tarzan in Haiti in 2025. What the Haitians have been clamoring for is for you to get the hell out. Let them choose their own leaders. We've let the Americans choose their own fool. Now he's endangering the whole planet with 34 accusations, some of it of pedophilia. And yet all of you pretend that he is a normal president. But you are harassing the people of Haiti because they choose Jean-Bertrand Aristide. You harass the people of the Congo because they choose Patrice Lumumba. You murdered Thomas Sankara, and you continue to do it again and again and again. And every time they have an election in Venezuela, they choose Nicolas Maduro. And you claim that the election is wrong because you want to have your own puppet, like this white supremacist woman, who wants to make Venezuela a white country again. Once again, I've been to Venezuela and I've seen the black Venezuelans that the previous governments have hidden in the countryside. And since Hugo Chavez became president of Venezuela and then followed by Maduro, you have black ministers in that country, and you have policies that are helping the black and indigenous people in Venezuela make economic progress. But you try to sabotage that. You don't try, you actually do sabotage their economic progress. Yet you have oil in your own territories. You hide it, you keep it as a reserve, and you're attacking the people, an impoverished people, barbarians. And so, a few references that I'm sharing with you, brothers and sisters. And of course, if you have the inclination, do not hesitate to call at 613-482-2549 using WhatsApp, and I'll be glad to entertain your questions. As you browse through those links that I've referenced in the presentation, I want to take your attention to those two quotes from my Facebook and Twitter feed. Invasion of Haiti, whether they've been planning this or talking about it since 2022, and now in 2025, and they already have some of these mercenaries in place in Haiti, but they're not telling you what they are mobilizing them for. Of course, in their official speech, they will tell you it's to help Haitians fight gangs. Where did these gangs come from? Just like the French and the British have at various times claimed that they're helping the people in Africa, in the Sahel region, fight Islamist terrorists. And then, what the people are observing is that the more help they get from the French, the more that their countries are being invaded by these Islamist terrorists who are killing their people. Eventually, we caught on to their evil game. The terrorists were created by the French, armed by them. So they create the threat, and then they offer their help to fight the so-called threat. It is nothing new. They've been doing that forever. And so in Haiti, the so-called gangs, okay, are US armed and US made and controlled. There's been plenty of studies that show that. Of course, with regards to the whereabouts of the weapons, yeah, and clearly by the names of the weapons, you know where they come from. They come from Florida. But it's more than that. They're facilitating it, and they're keeping those terrorists alive. They're sending propagandists who are working with newspapers that they give Haitian names, who are owned by white Americans in New York, okay, who are, making a mockery of Haitian revolution, okay. So all of this CIA money is being used to create confusion so that the Haitian people cannot choose in peace their own leadership. Because that leadership, of course, would do exactly what Aristide did back in the 90s, invest 16% of the meager government budget in healthcare so that people can have decent hospitals in the country. How can that be a crime against humanity, you barbaric folks? Explain that to me. Someone who is investing in hospitals, in universities, in parks, public parks, infrastructure for the people to enjoy. How come that is a crime? Increasing the minimum wage so that the workers who work at these sweatshops can at least hope for a better future for their children and their grandchildren, even if they sacrifice their own lives. What do you want? You want racial slavery to come back? Come out and say it. So the truth is, Trump wants to invade Haiti to establish its military base there, which will help it, just like you heard the senator says, progress on their efforts to attack Cuba, because Cuba is the neighbor of Haiti, and Venezuela, because when you're in Haiti, you have a view on both countries. People say, well, yeah, but they already have bases in Colombia. Yeah, but they have problems with the current president of Colombia. And it's not because they actually need to do something that uh, imperialist savages do something. It's because they can that they do. They don't need to do any of this evilness. They just do. And so we must rise in solidarity with these impoverished people to stop the imperialists on their tracks. And what they're also doing in Haiti with the invasion is protecting 15 or so white crime families who control the economy of Haiti. You can Google them. One name is Gilbert Bijo. He's the richest man on the island, the entire island, the only billionaire of Haiti, as far as we know. For 25 years, he was the representative of Israel in Haiti. Yes, indeed, he's a white man who claims to be Jewish. How did that happen? How he became the richest person in Haiti? It's not rocket science. Like I said, it's a crime family. During the period of racial slavery, the 30,000 whites counted on the militaries of France, the UK, Spain, the United States to help them whenever the black Africans who were enslaved would revolt. And so today, that's what these invasions are about. Protect the 15 white mafia families who have been trafficking human beings, trafficking organs, trafficking illegal weapons, trafficking cocaine. And now Trump has the gall to talk about fighting drug dealers in the Caribbean. Who is consuming all these drugs? Drugs inside of the White House. Everybody knows that. That's what it's all about. Those 15 white mafia families in Haiti are in collusion with corrupt elites in the US, Canada, and Europe. They are cousins. The core problem, our African and Caribbean nations are not led by decision makers of our own choosing, but by black-faced puppets selected by, accountable to, and protected by white power clans in Europe or North America. And so you have those two Trini brothers and sisters who were killed by Donald Trump the other day, and the so-called Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is, bending over backwards to, kiss the buttocks of Donald Trump, applauding him for attacking Venezuela. The fool doesn't realize that she is going to be next. Who are you going to call when Trump comes for you? Are you going to call for CARICOM solidarity? Yeah. When they were plucking the chicken, you as turkey, you were applauding. And so when they're going to be plucking you, you think that all the chickens are going to come and be in solidarity with you, fool. That's all I had to share with you, brothers and sisters. So if anybody is interested in making the call, I'd be more happy than take your call via WhatsApp. You'd have to call via WhatsApp, and I'd be happy to take your call. There is hope in the fact that beautiful human beings all over the planet are standing in solidarity, in truth, with their brothers and sisters. The example of IFCO, as you know, I do not partake in religious stuff and dogma, but that's my kind of pastors, okay? Folks who actually take it upon themselves to leave their comfort zones and to share food with those who need food, share medication with those who need medication, and do not pay lip service to justice and peace in the world. And so there is, quickly, I will go back to the relief effort websites. So like I said, on the Jamaican website itself, support Jamaica Gov JM, and Canadian Network on Cuba.ca, ifconews.org, and portapima.com, Combit pour Portapima. With regards to what I mentioned earlier on anti-Black racism in the Caribbean, I think it's worth taking a look at this article published by NACLA not so long ago. It's not a long read, and it is really, really an eye-opener. And yes, it is disturbing, but we need to garner the courage to look at these difficult realities. I have experienced it in Haiti, in Dominican Republic, in the Bahamas. But like I said, we must go beyond the idea of denouncing to explaining, so that when we address it, we can actually address this anti-Haitianism, because it is rooted in the history of white supremacy in the Americas. And so it's not a question that only faces folks on the Dominican Republic side or in the Bahamas. It's not a coincidence that it also is Haitians who are attacked under the El Paso Bridge between Mexico and the United States. And you had a so-called first black female vice president in Kamala Harris when this was happening. Yeah, Joe Biden was president at the time. So don't think this is just only about Donald Trump being racist. Racism is what the United States was established upon. Okay, and when I say United States, I could also say Canada. Okay, we need to face, okay, that anti-black racism, anti-indigenous people racism, as it continues to make difficult the lives of innocent men and women and children in the Americas. My name is Jafric Haiti, and it was my honor, my pleasure, and my privilege to serve you this evening. And so we will catch up next week for another episode of God is Not White. For those of you who understand Haitian Creole, our next appointment is this Sunday, same channel, Sunday at noon, Cause Nef, Tankou, Zé, Fré, et toujours Fré.
Women should remain silent in the churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their own husbands at home. For it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in the church.
Samuel said to Saul, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people Israel. So listen now to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will punish the Amalekites.
Jésus, par ton sang précieux, enlève mon iniquité. Regarde-moi sur les cieux, dis-moi que tu m'as pardonné. J'ai longtemps erré cœur rebelle, mais j'entends ta voix qui m'appelle. Au pied de ta croix maintenant, tout confus, brisé, je me rends. Blanc, blanc, plus blanc que neige, blanc, blanc, plus blanc que neige, lavé dans le sang de l'agneau, je serai plus blanc que la neige.
Now go, attack the Amalekites, and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. 1 Samuel 15.